Hey folks, how's it going? I want to give you a quick rundown on this new channel I got. Herbie's Rusty Anchor Garage. The name come from my grandfather, who had just recently passed away right after Christmas 2024. And we had just moved into the home place. We have 1 acre of land where the old Baker family house sits on. The house has been here for 100 years or more. It is the last acre of many acres that the family owned. My great-grandmother was the last person to live in the house, and she had passed away the last January. And we moved in the spring, and there was a single-wide trailer right beside the house, which is where I grew up, and my grandfather Herb, that is where he lived at. He joked around saying that all of the vehicles I got made the place look like a used car lot. And of course I said, don't worry about it, we're going to build a shop, and it will hold not all of the vehicles, but enough of them where it won't look like a used car lot, and I can park the others behind the shop. He thought that was a great idea. Not a professional mechanic by no means, but most of the stuff that I know come from watching him work on his vehicles. He never liked to pay anybody to work on his stuff. He did it all himself, mainly because he really liked to pinch his pennies. If you knew the guy, he saved money on everything, but in turn he was also a very generous individual. He has helped many people in the family and outside of the family his entire life. So he was in the Navy for 4 years. He was on the USS Blandy, which is now out of commission. And he really didn't talk a whole lot about the time he served, which it wasn't during wartime, but he was from Illinois. And he did not talk a whole lot about his family from Illinois. Really not sure what happened or why, or maybe he was just a very private individual. But he come here to North Carolina, married in to my family, and when I was 18 months old, my grandmother, his wife, and him took me in and raised me pretty much like their son. He spent a lot of time underneath the vehicle fixing old cars that he had to make sure they would run, and then when he got stumped, he'd find another vehicle to drive while he worked out the kinks into other vehicles. And of course, with my very short attention span as a young child would, I would be under the vehicle, hand him a couple of wrenches, 1 or 2 the wrong size, and then I guess I saw a squirrel, went off, and did my little kid thing. But when I told him I was going to build the shop here at the house, he got really excited because he was 69 years old. March 29th he'd be 70, and he did not like getting in the heat and working on the vehicles. As you can imagine, most people his age wouldn't tolerate the heat very well. So he was super excited about having a garage. And because of his excitement and his interest in the garage, and to kind of honor him for showing me the way of taking your time, learn how to keep your vehicles maintained and how to fix them whenever they break down, I decided to give it the name Herbie's Rusty Anchor Garage. Now, I found an old letter while I was going through the house, trying to find, some insurance things, figure out if there was any beneficiaries and such. Long story short, he had me listed as a beneficiary for his checking account, but when it come to retirements and a will saying that I was next of kin, that none of that stuff was there, because he when he died, it was kind of unexpected and sudden. So having to go through that whole process in the court system, trying to determine, who his heir is next of kin, tried to explain to the court system that, when he left his family in Illinois, unfortunately there was very little contact, and the only contact that I saw was a few letters from his mother, and his mother always referenced to him as Herbie. So that's where I got the name Herbie's Rusty Anchor Garage. Of course, Rusty Anchor kind of honoring his service in the Navy, and hopefully we will be able to do some pretty cool stuff. I got several vehicles, of course, that need some attention. I got my great-grandfather from my mother's side, 76 C10. Actually have worked on that under a different channel that was Baker Boys Restorations. But since the recent turn of events, I felt like it was more appropriate to create a different channel and go forward from there, since I am actually building a shop and not having to work outside in the grass, rocks, mud, rain, heat, winter storm, or whatever it may be. So I finally have something indoors. But the 76 C10 was my great-grandfather's. It was passed down to my grandfather, and he drove it for a long time and made a bunch of woodworking signs and such that you would put out in your yard for decorations, made little whirligigs, little tin mans out of cups. It was a very creative individual. He started restoring that vehicle. It's got a brand new 350 in it, but that's about as far as he got. It did get passed down to my mother, and she had it with intentions of getting it fixed up, and she had to move out of town, and when she moved out of town, my sister got it, and of course she wanted to fix it up too. But it kind of just stalled out. So I said, hey, bring it over. I'll work on it with the kids. My oldest son really likes classic vehicles, so more than likely it'll be handed down to him. And we've done a lot, even though when you look at it, it doesn't look like a whole lot. But having a shop to work in will definitely make it a whole lot easier. Besides the 76, I also have my father's 99 Chevy Tahoe, the last year that they made the two-door Tahoe. It's got the Z71 package on it. He was really proud of that vehicle. Another vehicle that I inherited due to an unfortunate death. And I had that on the road, drove it around a lot, and then I noticed it had pretty tremendous shake in the front. So the front end's got to be redone on it. I got most of the parts to redo it. I just haven't had the opportunity to break it down and rebuild it. But once again, I'll be out of the elements in a nice shop, and I'll be able to get it taken care of. Besides that, I do have a 1984 Chevy K10 short bed. Got that off of Facebook Marketplace at a very good price, and it runs. I think the timing's off a little bit on it, but I can get up underneath the hood and turn the distributor and get it where it doesn't run so rough, and then I could drive it around town. Long distances, not so much. It's got a little bit of rust on it, but there's not a whole lot that really needs to be done to it to get it 100% road worthy. Definitely a new paint job, and go from there. Outside of that, my grandfather that died this past Christmas did have a 99 Ford Ranger That one was a special built Ranger. He bought it brand new from the car lot and said that they had some special orders that were for police department, and it had some kind of special package on it. The only thing I know is that it'll get up and go, and to be a 4-cylinder is strong. And then he had a 2001 Durango, and if I'm not mistaken, that was the first year that Dodge had made the Durango. I may be wrong, so don't give me too much gripe over it, but I'll do my research on that one. Yeah, because of the whole inheritance thing, that those two vehicles are just sitting here at the house, and hopefully I can go through an abandoned vehicle process maybe, because the way it's looking with the lawyer and in the court systems, I'm probably not going to be the so-called heir, even trying to go through the whole equitable adoption thing because he had raised me as a son. None of that's going to work. I have a 2001 Z71. It is a extended cab truck. Bought it from a truck driver when my oldest son was born 13 years ago. Had 53,000 miles on it, and it just has turned over 107,000 miles. I hardly ever drive it, mainly because I do have a company vehicle that I drive throughout the week, and my wife's vehicle, of course, that's kind of the family vehicle. We drive that around. Prior to moving here at the home place, I had a camper that was down at the beach, and we had to bring it back, and I really didn't want to call anyone and ask to borrow their vehicle. So I was able to talk my wife into saying that I needed a diesel truck. I'm sure other folks have used some needs to their advantage like I did, and I was able to get a 2003 F-250 6.0, and yes, I know 6.0s. Ooh, I've driven several 6.0s back whenever they first come out, so I know all the bad stuff that comes with those 6.0s. I've had quite a few of them break down on me, including the one that I got, but it's a pretty solid vehicle. 193,000 miles on it. It's just broken in for old diesel truck. It's bulletproofed, and I keep it maintained. I've actually only had it for just a year this month, so it's still growing on me. That's all the vehicles that I have. Some of you may be like, wow, that's a whole lot of vehicles for one person to own, but really only 2 of them are roadworthy. One of them is completely tore down except for the cab and the front clip, and the Tahoe, it's I don't think it's safe to drive until I get the front end rebuilt. The 84, like I said, I believe the timing's a little off on it. And then the 2 vehicles that are my grandfather's, I believe I just got a letter in his mailbox that said the insurance had canceled. So yeah, can't drive those on the road. And the Ranger's got a tire that won't hold air, and it needs new tires. It needs some attention. And my grandfather said he thought the clutch was going out of it too last winter. So I'll have to get in it and brush up on my 5-speed skills, because it is a manual transmission, which is incredibly fun to drive. That was my very first vehicle, was a 95 Nissan pickup truck, 5-speed. My father took me to a graveyard to learn how to drive it. I guess he figured, take it out in the graveyard, if you burn some wheels, pop the clutch, make a lot of noise, ain't nobody there gonna be worried about it. You ain't gonna bother them folks. So I learned how to drive a 5-speed in the local graveyard, a pretty big one, and I didn't knock over any headstones or wake the dead. So all's well. I'll post, some pictures and how things are going with the shop. We just got 6 loads of dirt that come in today. So I don't want to say this is the official groundbreaking, but the official ground building of the shop. I'm hoping to have a lot of videos. Some of it may be instructional, some of it may not be instructional, some of it just may be some antics. But this is kind of something that I wanted to do. I enjoy watching a lot of do-it-yourself how-to videos, and I figured I'd give it a shot. Worst case scenario, somebody may learn something simple, or somebody may learn how to not get hurt or injure themselves, because I would. So that's the introduction to the channel, and stay tuned for more. And as you can tell, this is the barn that I currently have all my tools, and my wife has all her stuff in, and there is honestly no more room to do anything out of this barn. So the barn will turn into a she shed for the wife, and she'll have all of her craft stuff in here. All right, see y'all later.